Jacen Solo, the eldest son of Han and Leia, the twin brother of Jaina and older brother to Anakin. Jacen is an interesting character whose talents in the Force reflected the strength of the Chosen One flowing through him. The Force was strong within all three of the Solo children. Because of this, all three would go on to be trained in the ways of the Force. Jacen and Anakin would go on to train with their uncle Luke, and Jaina with their aunt Mara, and they would make many friends within the Jedi Academy. While Jaina and Anakin found their place within the new Jedi Order as knights, Jacen on the other hand would grow rather distant with the Order and their point of view when it came to their teachings in the ways of the Force. Today's recording will explore the life of Jacen Solo and how at 16 years of age he almost made the decision to depart from the new Jedi Order entirely. First though, my friends, if you enjoy this type of lore from the expanded universe, consider subscribing to our ever-expanding order as I continue to upload more knowledge from the EU. Now back to the subject at hand. Jacen Solo came to rely greatly on the Force during his early life, believing it would provide him with all he needed to the point of him neglecting his own physical training, as well as acting somewhat distant with his own family in a sense, though he would correct this behavior over the years. With this came an understanding of the Force and a greater respect for it on a spiritual level. By the time he was 16, however, he hit a wall. Jacen started to question his potential in the Force and how he felt he would not achieve it with the new Jedi Order, at least from his own understanding at the time, given that he was only 16. Our story comes from the pages of the Star Wars novel Dark Tide: Onslaught, which took place during the first months of the Yuuzhan Vong invasion. During this point in time, the extragalactic species had breached the galactic barrier through the entry point codenamed Vector Prime and had already begun inflicting considerable damage upon the known galaxy, with the alteration of the planet of Belkadan and dropping a moon on the planet of Serpentol, which claimed the life of our Wookiee hero Chewbacca. 2 months after the Yuuzhan Vong made their presence known, tensions were already rising with Luke's new Jedi Order and the New Republic expressing their resentment with how the Jedi would take the law into their own hands at times without even being called upon by the worlds they were policing. Jacen at this age felt his potential in the Force had capped in the new Jedi Order, given that his early teachings had revolved around the old Jedi Order's own understanding of the Force through the training of his uncle Luke under Obi-Wan and Yoda, who gave Skywalker the knowledge he needed to possess in order to defeat the Empire. In other words, Luke Skywalker was the last hope for the galaxy during the Empire's reign, and Obi-Wan and Yoda made Luke into the Jedi the galaxy needed him to be. For a deeper understanding of what Jacen means by this, what better source than the words from the young man himself? First though, I want to provide some context as to what was currently happening in this situation and what led up to Jacen expressing his concerns. Luke Skywalker and the new Jedi Order had just recently discussed the newly emerging threat of the Yuuzhan Vong. The Jedi found themselves divided in terms of what their next action should be. The Jedi Knight Kip Duran and other knights believed that swift action was necessary, while others would agree with the lack of evidence of this new threat. There were simply too much unknowns in this situation, and retaliation in this case would be suicide. Luke Skywalker divided the knights, including his own nephews, across the stars in order to aid the known worlds and in the process find any sort of evidence of Yuuzhan Vong activity. When dividing the assignments, Luke had assigned the Jedi Master Corran Horn and the Jedi Knight Ganna Rysode to a system located in the Outer Rim, designated as MCX-3329, in the efforts of locating an archaeological survey team sent by the University of Agamar. The team had lost contact with the university administration and requested the help of the Jedi to make sure the team was okay. Anakin was assigned to accompany Mara to the planet of Dantooine and assist her while she recovered, as Mara Jade was experiencing an ongoing battle with a deadly disease connected to the Vong, which required her extensive concentration in order to push the disease back, but left her somewhat vulnerable in certain areas. Just when Luke was preparing to give Jacen his own assignment, the youth spoke up but almost backpedaled, feeling that he would embarrass his uncle Luke with what he had to say. Corran was still present in the room and was about to leave, however Luke stopped him, sensing it would be useful to have more than two perspectives in this instance. I suppose this conversation has been coming for a while, hasn't it? Probably, Jacen shrugged. I've been thinking since the Yuuzhan Vong arrived, and since all the Jedi were in here talking. What have you been thinking? Jacen let out a sigh, pushing off a certain amount of relief. If this sounds harsh, I don't mean it to be, but I've come to realize something pretty fundamental about the Jedi Order. See, we're all trained to use the Force to allow us to do things to keep the peace and stave off disaster. We do that because we're following your teaching. You're following the teaching of your masters, Uncle Luke, but they had to instruct you in those things you needed to defeat the Empire. They did a great job forging you into a weapon, and you even went beyond their training to do things they probably didn't think you could. Luke nodded and answered, I can accept that. Jacen went on. Okay, the thing of it is that you were shaped as a weapon by Jedi Masters who were part of a tradition that had developed into peacekeepers. I get the feeling though that's not how the Jedi began. I think the Jedi philosophy started as something that strengthened the people within. The powers we manifest, I think those are all outgrowths of internal strengthening, but a lot of those teachings were lost along the way. I mean, I feel the need for something inside. And with a look of anguish in his face, Jacen looked up at Luke and said, I'm not sure being a Jedi is my calling in life. I'd really prefer it if you gave me no assignment at all. Jacen at the time believed that separating himself from the Order and becoming a hermit while contemplating on the Force was his way of finding his place in it and achieving his potential, deepening his relationship with that energy, which to him meant no longer being a Jedi Knight. Perhaps he would have gotten his answers if he had left, though Jacen's timing couldn't be more inconvenient as the threat of the Yuuzhan Vong still loomed over the heads of the New Republic and the Jedi Order. Luke respected his nephew's self-reflection, however he could not permit him to leave at this time. For you see, my friends, as of this moment, only Mara Jade Skywalker and Jacen Solo had faced warriors of the Yuuzhan Vong face to face, and while Mara was on Dantooine recovering, Jacen would be called upon by his uncle for him to accompany Luke to the planet of Belkadan in order to find any remnants of what the Yuuzhan Vong had used to alter the planet, and if they were to engage any warriors on the surface, Luke would have Jacen's insight to assist him on this mission. Jacen still had his reservations about going, however his sense of duty would push him towards the mission. The reality of it is, he was still needed, not only by his friends and family born of blood and from the new Jedi Order, but for the sake of the rest of the galaxy as the Yuuzhan Vong looked to inflict a world of pain to everything he held dear. His place in that moment was with the new Jedi Order protecting the galaxy. For myself reading these records for the first time, it's unfortunate to realize the path Jacen would eventually embrace following his experiences lived during the Yuuzhan Vong's taking of the galaxy, and the coming storm that would follow. Thank you for visiting our vaults, my friends. Hopefully we meet again as we continue to explore our expanded universe. Be safe and may the Force be with you, always.